it really cracked him. I was like, oh God, this is not good. The Paddy the Baddy hype train might get derailed very early on.
What's up, Barnhill family? Welcome back to the channel.
Yo.
So Nick, Paddy the Baddy Pimblett finally made his UFC debut, got a TKO victory over a very tough Luigi Vendramini, but it wasn't without a little bit of controversy and a little bit of adversity. How would you rate Paddy the Baddy's debut?
I think it's one of the most exciting debuts we've had in quite some time. A lot of people, when they get under those lights and generally in front of a big crowd, I know that the Apex is not really hosting huge events right now, but it usually gets the best of them, and they might squeeze out a victory, but they don't usually do it in the type of fashion that they, were doing before they got to the UFC. Paddy the Baddy came in, guns a-blazing, dealt with some adversity early on, was able to get the fight over in the first round, and it was exciting from the very beginning all the way until the ref stopped it. So I think he definitely made quite a statement jumping into the UFC pool, and I can't wait to see what he does next.
Yeah, a lot of questions have been answered. Would Paddy be able to rise to the occasion of the biggest promotion in the sport? How would he handle a guy who is much bigger than him? I mean, Luigi Vendramini is a guy that fought at 170.
Right.
Paddy spent a lot of his career at 145. That's a big jump.
Yeah.
And he looked like very filled out at 155. His frame was filled. He looked lean. He looked in shape. I was very impressed with his ability to overcome the adversity because Luigi hit him with a huge hook in the beginning of that first round. I mean, it put Paddy down, buckled his knees. Then Luigi came in with some big ground and pound, landed some elbows, threatened a guillotine submission. Paddy maintained his wits, defended well, kind of wrapped up that half guard situation, rode it out, and found his scramble to get back to his feet. And listen, once he got back to his feet, a lot of guys, when you get rocked like that, they tend to get on their horse and kind of jab and try to make it through the end of the round. Paddy was right back in the firefight after that. We know him for his submission ability, but last night he showed he can throw hands too. And I know we can critique a little bit, and we will, some of the things that technically he didn't do so well with the striking, but at the end of the day, he got the TKO victory and landed some big shots at the end of that fight.
Yeah, he got a very impressive victory over a very impressive fighter. And I love that style that you talked about. He walked right through the fire once he got cracked, and that first hook that Luigi landed was loud. I mean, we had the volume on, but it was exceptionally loud, and I think it really cracked him. I was like, oh God, this is not good. The Paddy the Baddy hype train might get derailed very early on, but he was able to walk right through it. He gave us a very exciting fight, and I love the sport of MMA for the fact that it doesn't really matter if you win every fight. It's not like boxing where you have to protect your undefeated record, right? He's not even undefeated. It was if you come in and put on performances like that time and time again, people don't really care if you're winning 2 and losing 1 and winning 3 and losing 2. You're able to keep your job in the UFC because you're so exciting. He's also really good, promoting his fights. He's been really good at creating hype around his name, and a lot of people are kind of interested in the person and the character that is Paddy the Baddy. And his fighting style definitely backs it up. A lot of people were talking about how his jiu-jitsu was his primary game, and that's what we should look out for. And I think he had some pretty good strikes. Obviously, I think defensively his striking is a little bit
needs some refinement.
Novice, yeah. It needs a little bit of help. Hands up a little bit more, chin down a little bit more. But he was throwing some interesting kicks. He was able to keep good range with like a teep kick and a push kick, and then he'd throw like a question mark kind of. It was pretty good. It was pretty effective. His hands are a little bit reckless, but it makes for a very exciting style. And I think that if he's able to rock people with some good striking and get them to want to shoot on him, I think that opens up his submission game, which, from what we understand, is his most impressive of all attributes.
Yeah, and I can't wait to see him get into some ground exchanges. We saw a ground exchange, but that was because Luigi put him there with that hook. So it was more of a stay alive sort of situation rather than an offensive situation for Paddy. But what I didn't like about his striking was his chin was way too high. Michael Bisping said it, and even more importantly than the chin being high, his hands were low. Yeah. And when you're a fighter who's willing to step into boxing range and at the same time hold your chin high and your hands low, unless you're somebody like Israel Adesanya, that can be an extremely dangerous situation and can be the kiss of death for you in a lot of fights. that will not work for Paddy against somebody like a Rafael Fiziev, for example, somebody in the division who's just lights out with the striking. He's going to have to work on that and correct that. But what I did like about his striking is, you see a lot of guys that are kind of light on their feet and they jab and move and kind of bounce around. When Paddy's ready to throw an exchange, he bites down on his mouthpiece, he plants his feet, and he throws the exchange.
Yeah.
He threw that big hook and followed it by an uppercut and then a jab straight. And it was like, all bad intentions. Every shot was meant to hurt, was meant to take Luigi out.
Right.
Very good with smelling blood in the water and finishing the fight. He showed that he can take a shot, but again, Luigi's not going to deliver the hardest shot that 155 can offer for Paddy.
Right.
So he's going to have to, correct those things. That fight, had it been somebody a little bit more seasoned in striking or a little bit more powerful than Luigi Vendramini, we could have seen a TKO loss for Paddy last night rather than a TKO victory. So I'd like to see him get back to the drawing board. We know the submission game is his game. That's where most of his victories come from. But the striking to win by TKO in your UFC debut when your game is submission is quite impressive. And I think he'll come back and we'll see an evolution of Paddy. I think he's going to be one of those fighters like Sean O'Malley, where his name is bigger than the number in his ranking for a long time. Yeah,
I think he's going to make some waves at 55. And for me, he kind of filled out the frame of a 55er. I can't really imagine him fighting 10 pounds lower than, or weighing in 10 pounds lower than where he was fighting last night. I mean, after the rehydration, he was still ripped to shreds and looked very muscular and just defined as an athlete. So I think that, he might have the crazy haircut and might not look like a legit tough guy and a legit badass, but he certainly is, and he's got the body. I think that the primary, the bulk of his career is going to be at 55, which everybody knows is the toughest division, not only in the UFC, but in the entire sport of MMA. And so he's going to have his hands full. He's not going to have a ton of easy fights. And as we always talk about, the UFC, they don't really like to pat your stats or give you tomato cans to crush. They'll try to throw you in there with who they think you're, comparable with as far as skills go, which means Paddy is likely going to be launched right into people that are maybe not ranked yet, but they're very tough opponents right outside of the rankings. And then, one or two more wins the way he did it, and he's going to be fighting people with numbers next to their name. And, I feel like this is a very cool coming out party for a guy that has all the potential to be a star. He really does, evoke an emotion out of people.
Yeah.
People want to see what he's up to. I haven't seen people this excited for a debut in quite some time. We were watching with people that aren't near as into the sport as we are, and they were all ready. We're all sitting there with our drinks and our sodas and our popcorn, ready to watch Paddy the Baddy, and making sure that at 3 o'clock Central Time we were ready to watch this early UFC card because he's so entertaining. There's some hype around him. Love the fight name. Love the haircut. Here he's really good. He's calling people like Conor McGregor out already before he's even made his debut. So I just love it. And anybody that's able to do that and get us interested in their fighting before they've even made a walk into the UFC octagon is going to be a fan favorite.
Yeah, the marketability is certainly through the roof, and clearly he demonstrated that the skill set is pretty good as well.
Yeah, and one other thing is if we start seeing kids walk around with the Baddy haircut, the Baddy bangs, which I gave him, I gave him that name, so hopefully he uses
Nick
it.
dubbed him the Baddy bangs.
The Baddy bangs. If we start seeing kids walk around with that, and that's the evolution of the TikTok haircut, then we know that we've got a superstar on our hands.
Yep. And any of you Barnhill Brothers fans out there from Liverpool, let us know if the kids are walking around with the Baddy bangs yet. We'd be interested to know.
Absolutely.
Guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Did you enjoy the debut of Paddy the Baddy Pimblett as much as we did? We're super hype on this kid. Can't wait to see what he does next. As always, if you've enjoyed our video, a like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already is much appreciated. And if you listen to audio podcasts, check us out there as well. Have a wonderful day, guys. See you in the next one.
Peace.